Hello. This is going to be part 3 of the drawings videos that I've been making. This is going to be a shorter one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show pictures that I've drawn for the story of the Who's, and I'm just going to give a little bit of description for each one. And once I get through all of that, well, that will be the video. So to start, I have, this is Orion with 2 pistols hiding behind a column, and this is this is the last hours of his life when he was inside of the Iosha superweapon that the Lys were building to launch the Deleska virus against the entire world of Omna. And Timeless was waiting in the control room as the weapon was counting down to fire, or charging up to fire, and they had just had a huge clash outside of the super weapon with the combined fleets of the Who's and Lys in an epic battle, and Orion had flown through and destroyed many enemy fighters and had eventually made it to the super weapon, but he got shot down and crash landed in the side, and Timeless came over the intercom and taunted Orion, and he sent 24 Daika Special Forces soldiers after him in groups of 8, and Orion killed them all single-handedly, which was quite a miraculous feat given the fact that they are, after all, the most elite soldiers, and he was outnumbered 8-1. Fortunately, the chosen intuition and his superior skill and a bit of cleverness helped him to win. This is Lely. She was one of the characters of the Dinarans, who were the resistance fighters in the deserts around Mikalove, and she favored an old RKM hunting rifle that her grandfather had given her. She also liked to steal the red goggles that the Lys had that gave them heat-seeing capabilities, infrared vision, sort of, and she would wear them in the caves so she could see. She was sort of inspired, just her personality, by a friend I had in middle school who was similar to her in temperament. She died while they were attacking Point 7, which was one of the Laos strongholds outside of Mikalove in the surrounding area. Fortunately, they won that battle, captured Point 7, and that was enough to convince the Kamenians, who's living in nearby mountains, that the fight against Mikalove was a winnable one, and they committed troops and ships that were capable of laying siege to the super fortress and eventually destroying it. So this is Bree Alcata. She was a member of Orion's Special Tiger Squadron of pilots after Serengarth had fallen and been retaken by the Underthrone. She had previously been part of Cassiopeia, Orion's sister, had a special squadron for herself, and Bree had sort of been her protege in a way. But Bree joined Orion's squadron, and she was an almost insane sort of pilot, but she always managed to pull off whatever she was trying to do, even though Orion was very worried and figured she had no respect for her own life or whatever. But she was just an exceptionally good pilot, if a very risk-taking one. And she actually outlived Orion. She flew alongside him in the battle against Iosha. But eventually, even after 7 years, the Who's, after having retaken Serengarth, Orion launched a attack to the south to attack the Laos fleet, which, after the 4th Omnicide, which resulted from the launching of the Finality weapon in Iosha, the Lys were much diminished, and their fleet was mostly concentrated in an area called Balbana, and Myron led the fleet there and attacked the smaller fleet group of Timeless's, one of Timeless's descendants in a way, named Relentless, and they killed him, although Bree paid for that with her life, flying her fighter, which still had a nuclear bomb attached to it, but could not be released because her fighter was damaged, flew it directly into the center of Relentless's flagship, destroyed the fleet, destroyed the commander. The fleet was very disorganized, and Myron's ships made short work of the rest. They certainly didn't defeat the Lyce by any means, but they made a very staggering attack against it, and this allowed Serengarth to hang on long enough to gather more strength, gather more allies, and 10 years later left Orion and Triel's children alive to keep fighting. This is just a picture of a Hu soldier shooting a louse. This is Kalona Veni. She was a woman from the distant western village of Calicier in the ruins of Fainrow. And when Orion went to Fainrow to try to learn more about what had started the war between the Hus and Lyce, he met Tenebrock, who was Kalona's brother and was the leader of the village, and Tenebrock eventually got them to help him with something, and in return he told Kalona to help bring Orion to a cave that was far from the village, and they flew there, and Kalona brought him along the cliffs after their ship was shot down, and they were the only survivors. So, after they went to the cave and discovered everything within, on the way out, Tenebrock was killed, and Orion helped to console her, and eventually, when they left Fainrow, he took her and the other villagers with him, and he and Kalona ended up in a sort of romantic relationship for about a year, until Timeless killed her during the attack on Rashidon, which was a giant louse city to the south. This is a picture of two louse soldiers, one crouched behind a tree, the other aiming an assault rifle, and some bullet holes in the tree up here. Just another drawing. This is a picture I never got anywhere with of Timeless with two knives. Plan to draw more of Timeless and Orion fighting, or Timeless and Peter fighting. This is a little note I did of various ideas for weapons and different firearms. Most of them I eventually made into weapons, but this is just a random soldier with I think a Modavi PXP rifle, which is what's used by the Serengarthians. This is another map of Serengarth on an index card. Probably can't read any of it because it's out of focus and the writing's too small, but that's okay. This is a cannon hulk. This is a piece of hulk, or this is a hulk with a piece of field artillery strapped to its arm. And this is different from the rocket, or rocket hulks, or the regular hulks, in that it's usually capable of blowing up a tank or something similar. And these have even thicker shields meant to stop tank shells. They're even slower moving than normal hulks, but they are very, very dangerous. These are usually fielded by the Drukim in place of tanks. Some other miscellaneous drawings. Here are some earlier drawings of characters. This is Julia, who was Orion's first sort of girlfriend in McAlevey, and she was one of the other soldiers, and she fought alongside Orion and his mother and father and Myron during several missions, one of which near the end was to attack a generator within McAlevey that would lower shields around a structural point so that they could blow it up and help to collapse the structure of the super fortress. She was killed by skitter stings, which I showed before. Some of these drawings are very off. This is a very early drawing of Aldric. This is Kaloric Knoll, who was a mercenary that Orion and Triel ran into during the rise of the Underthrone, before they retook Serengarth. And he was had been a mercenary, almost sort of like a military contractor. And of course, like all mercenaries, he's got a hat. This isn't a very good drawing of him. This is just me trying to get a vague idea of what he looked like. And he had a sort of very selfish sort of, after the Serengarth fell, and that was a lot of the Who resistance in that area. And after that, it was very scattered and hopeless. And he just was very much the survivalist mentality, do what it took to keep himself alive. But he ended up doing selfless things in the end. He sacrificed himself to save Triel when their ship was shot down. I think that's all for now. Here's just a picture of one of the Who tanks, a low soldier. That's pretty much it, though. I'll see you guys next time. Like I said, this is going to be a short video.